everybody. It's Sean Price here with Price and Price Group with this week's Seller Market Snapshot. What's happened in the Northern Virginia real estate market and what sellers need to know about it so that they know what to expect and how to take full advantage of this ever expanding market. Let's dive in. All right, so we are in the heart of spring, sellers, and if you are considering selling, it is time to jump into the market. We need the inventory, the buyers are out there, properties are selling at top market value, and this is a beautiful, beautiful time for you as a seller. As long as you price it appropriately, you're realistic, you present it in its best light, and you are going to get top market value for this property, most likely multiple offers, and it's going to be a great experience for you. So let's dive into the numbers. Let's just get straight into it. Now, this market report will go a little bit longer because I do have the month-over-month stats for February of 2026 versus February 2025. So at the end of this, I am going to put that video on here, so you'll be able to see what the big picture is looking like. So the market snapshot is the minutia, it's the now, it's the real time, so that you know as a seller what to expect your contracts to look like and what you need to be prepared to do to compete against the other sellers in the market, because you are competing against the other properties on the market. So this gives you real-time data for that. The month-over-month market snapshot gives us a bird's eye view of what the trend in the market is. So let's dive into this. Okay, so as always, we have our black line is our buyer activity. Those are the number of contracts that went under contract and number of properties that went under contract in the last 7 days. Our teal line is the new inventory, and that's the number of properties that came onto the market in the last 7 days. You can see that buyer activity is just continuing to increase. You can see the inventory took a pretty large spike this past week, with March being the first week of the spring market, quote unquote. We'll see that inventory start going up. So that's where you as a seller, you need to keep in mind, if you are planning on selling and you're planning on entering the market, yes, there will be more buyers as we go through into April, May, June, and July, but we're also going to have more inventory. So you're going to have more competition. So it depends on what that ratio is as to whether that supply and demand curve is an opportunity for you. Right now, here and now, we know that if you get on that market and you do it at the right price and the right condition, you are going to get multiple offers and you're going to get top market value for your property. We don't know what the future is going to look like, so just consider that as you're making your plans. Okay, so you can see that demand went up and supply went up. You can see that the gap between supply and demand decreased. So if you go down here to the strength of the seller's market, you can see that it did drop significantly, but we are still on that upward trend. Was just in a mastermind with the top producers of our brokerage here at Sampson Properties, which is the largest brokerage here at Sampson Properties, the #1 brokerage. And there were about 60 of us in that room, and we were hearing story after story after story of properties that had been on the market, maybe even expired last year or were pulled off the market at the end of the last year because they weren't getting any traction. They go on the market right now and they're getting multiple offers. They're going under contract in the first weekend and clean offers. So it is a beautiful time for sellers right now. So what do contracts look like for that have been coming in? Well, this is from Cardinal Title. These are 172 contracts that came in the last 7 days. And you can see that, about 37% of these contracts were over listing price and 31% were at listing price. So about 68% of the properties are at or above listing price. But here's the sweet spot. You want to get above that listing price. So you want to be in the properties that goes under contract in the first 7 days. Now here's a key to notice. 48% of the properties went under contract in the first 7 days, but only 37% went above asking price. So what that tells you is that yes, buyers are out there and they're jumping at the properties. The ones that are really, really well positioned are getting multiple offers, so they're the ones going above listing price. But there was still 11% that got the asking price at that first week. So this means for you as a seller, if you get a strong offer and you're in that first week and you're thinking, I'm just going to get the multiple offers, I think I'm going to really milk this and bring this in, you may end up that being your best offer, and you may end up getting yourself into a little bit of a pickle. We see that happen all the time. So if you get a strong offer and it's at your listing price and that's the number that you're happy with, let's talk about it. You and your listing agent need to have that conversation, because you don't want to leave money on the table, but you also don't want to lose money by letting that property stay on the market because you think there's better out there. It's an important mindset to have. And then you can see that 23% of properties went between 8 and 21 days. You can see about 31% of the properties went at list price, and then 29% over 22 days, and 31% went under listing price. So this is where you do not want to be. You do not want your property to sit on the market because you've priced it too high for its condition. You do not want it to sit on its market past that 22 days, because that's where you're going to start going under asking price. So it's really important that you are strategically placed with this market. Cash versus financing, about 17% cash offers. If you're a seller, this doesn't really matter. Money is money. Just make sure that your agent knows how to really make sure that that buyer is qualified and that you are in a good position with that. The contingencies, so buyers are still going to be coming in with the finance contingencies, even though they are getting a lower percentage. Right now they're at 57% getting them, but you may end up having a contingency on your contract. It may be a finance contingency and an appraisal contingency. Appraisals are at 60%. Home inspections are going down. So if you can position yourself appropriately and you can really increase that traffic and increase the potential of multiple offers, there's a stronger chance that you may not end up having to deal with an inspection contingency. And if you can do that, then you don't have to worry about a buyer coming back and trying to renegotiate once they get that inspection report back. So that is where that pricing is so important, because you want to generate that demand. But still 53% did get it. That number is going down, so just be prepared for it. But ideally you can create a situation as a seller where you can get past that inspection contingency. And here's what's important. As a seller, you don't want to avoid the inspection contingency because you're getting away with something. You want to pass a good product on to the buyer. But what you do want to do, that inspection contingency does put the buyer in a position where if they get cold feet or they change their mind or another property comes on the market they may want, and it's in that timeline, it gives them pretty much a free pass to, as long as they do the inspection, they could void the contract. So if we can avoid that get out of jail free card for them, that's what we would really, really like to do. All right. Contract to close, the majority of the deals were closing within 30 days or less, with about 47% going over that 31 days. I haven't seen any of those personally. It's all been between 15 and 30 days, usually in that 15 to 20 day timeline. Now, as far as buyer agent compensation for you as a seller, 98% of the sellers out there are offering buyer agent compensation. So you need to be prepared for that. It's going to come in on the contract. It's going to come in with your offer. So when you're looking at offers, you want to focus on the net. The net tells you how much money you're going to take home. We need to make that net the highest number possible and make that net work for you. If that means you have to pay a buyer's agent commission so that that buyer can afford to buy your property, that's fine, because 98% of sellers are contributing to the buyer agent commission. So just be prepared for that. A lot of sellers have been hearing rumors that they no longer have to do that, and you don't. It's completely negotiable. But if you opt to not pay buyer agent commission, you're going to be one of the 2%, and you may end up getting a lot fewer offers because those buyers are already coming out of pocket with a ton of money to buy the house, and then they have to pay their agent on top of that. Could be very difficult for them and cost prohibitive. Okay, so sellers, it's a great time for you. Let's have a conversation. If you're even thinking about entering the market, let's have a conversation. Let Kelly and I come by. We can take a look at your property. We can walk through the property, let you know what updates you can do, let you know what it would take to best prepare your property, let you know what the property might be able to sell for, kind of give you an idea about what you could walk away with, and then you can decide if it makes sense for you to potentially list the property or not. Even if you don't want to use us, if you don't end up using us, you end up going with another agent, that's fine. We are more than happy to come and do this. We just really want to give you the best information and arm you with the ability to go out in the market and succeed. If you'd like to set up that consultation at no charge, it'd be 703-783-2143. Okay, look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see you guys on next week's Snapshot. Hey everybody, it's Sean Price with the Price and Price Group, and the numbers are in. We've got the February 26 numbers, so we can compare them to the February 25 numbers to see how the market is moving and what the trend is. Let's dive into it. Okay, so we're going to dive into the month-over-month stats from 2025 versus 2024, so we can compare and see, is the market moving in a growing, an increasing transaction, a seller's market, or are we seeing tendencies where we may start seeing prices start come down? What are we going to see? Well, let's go ahead and just dive into it. All right, so the number of new listings was actually down 13.4% compared to February of 2025. So we had 958 listings in February 2026, and we had 1106 in February 2025. What's important about that is if you go over here and you look at the number of sales, you'll see that the number of sales were up 4.4%. So the amount of inventory was down, but the number of sales were up, which means there was more demand than there was supply in this given month. So that tends to be more towards a market where prices are again starting to trend up, and we're starting to see a stronger demand versus supply ratio. Days on market, 28 days for February of 2026 versus 24 days February 2025. So properties have been sitting on the market a little bit longer this past season, but you can see that we're starting to catch up. We're starting to get closer. So we'll see what happens in March. Months of inventory stayed exactly the same. This is our absorption rate, and the absorption rate means that if no more properties came on the market and we continue to sell properties at the same speed that we've been selling them in the last month, then how long would it take for all of the inventory to be eaten up? And that number is 3 months. A normal market is considered to be around 5 to 6 months. A buyer's market is anything above 6 months. A seller's market is anything below that 5-month mark. So we are in a seller's market. We have been consistently, but it feels like we're getting back into a stronger seller's market at this point. And then finally, what is the median sales price? What did that sales price do? Interestingly enough, it actually went down a little bit. Ignore this January 2025. I forgot to change that. It's supposed to be February 2025. But sales price went down 1.4% from 742.5 in February of 2025 to 732.5 in February 2026. Now, I've gone over this multiple times, like what the median sales price means. This does not mean that your values are going down. This does not mean that home property values are dropping. It does not tell us anything about the value of an individual property. What this tells us is that of the sampling in February of 2026, the number that fell right smack dab in the middle was 732,500, which is down from the number that fell right smack dab in the middle in February of 2025. So properties themselves, you have to look at it individually. And I say this both when the price goes up or the price goes down. This is just a good way of us tracking to see what the trend is, but don't take 1 month in and of itself and use it as a comparable number. Let's just keep an eye on this. Let's see what happens. But we do know that the market itself is picking up in activity, and we're starting to see a lot of competition entering the market again. So we'll stay on top of this and see what happens in March. Okay, if you guys have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to us. And if not, then we will see you on next month's monthly market report. And just remember that right now it is March 6th as I'm shooting this video, and the market's going crazy and we're seeing multiple offers. So it is chaotic out there. Make sure you're watching the weekly snapshot so that you know how to make real-time decisions that will work for you so that you can navigate this market successfully, either as a buyer or a seller. All right, have a great day out there, or a great week or a great month, and we'll see you next time.